happening, folks? All right, got a 2009 Toyota Camry. It's the 2AZ FE. Some motors in here. It needs a motor, and I'm pretty sure you know why it needs a motor. These had an oil consumption problem, but it's locked up, and I can't rotate the crank. So there has to be some other alternatives for me to get this crank loose to get the motor out. I don't want to pull the engine and transmission out. I just don't. And if I have to go to the bottom, remove the oil pan and the balance shaft to access the bolts to remove the end caps, the rod end caps, then I will do that. I've rebuilt one of these motors before 3 years ago. It runs perfectly fine. Theirs didn't lock up. What happened to theirs was it was knocking. So I'm not saying things were salvageable because I got a new crank, rod that was damaged, and new pistons, rings, gaskets, timing chain. All that stuff is brand new. Ran fine. Never consumed any more oil after that. So the plan is to do the same with this one. And there's no holes in it. The rods are not broke. And being that the rods aren't broken, there shouldn't be any damage inside the motor. Now, what's going to happen? I guess there still could be damage by the scoring of the cylinder walls. I'll check that once I get the motor out. But normally, when the motors lock up, normally it's just the bearing because they go through more friction than the walls do. So you got rings on the walls that's going to wear out more so than sooner. You have the rings you have the rings on the wall. Those are going to wear before it start messing up the cylinder, the bore. But I'll be able to see all that before when I pull the head off. This car has, I want to say 200,000. Hold on. The car has 219,000. I'm just going to start up so you can hear it. So you just hear that it's locked up. So 219,000. I'll assess the walls and see if it needs to be, if it is going to need a new used motor or not. But the thing is, I was reluctant about putting a used motor in here, primarily because it has an oil consumption problem, and for the price they're paying, I can go through and rebuild it, and they'll be in a better spot than simply just putting a used motor with 121,000 miles. And we're kind of on a budget, so this was the better alternative. Even though it's more labor intensive, it's cheaper, but the labor is still going to be I'll be compensated for the labor for redoing it. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I guess this is going to be over the course of maybe like 2 weeks, trying to get this thing rebuilt and back in the car and running. So the plan is get a new crank, which I got one off of Rock Auto. Got an engine rebuild kit with new pistons, rings, gaskets, full 9, new water pump. I don't know if I mentioned the timing chain and VVT gear is going to be replaced. No cheaper than what it is because these can rattle quite a bit when you start it up. So I'm going to get that changed. So hopefully the gear set will probably come with I want to say I can't remember which one is the intake is the variable valve. I think the exhaust isn't. Don't hold me on that. I can't remember. I work on so many cars. So we'll go through and see what happens. But right now I'm going to go ahead and pull the pan, and I'll work on getting the oil drained, and I guess we can take a look up under there and see what I got to come to. Now, if I recall properly, I'm going to pull the pan, the first section of the pan out, which you won't have access to the crank because of the balance shaft that runs across. So I might just take the quicker route, cut the balance shaft chain, or I think I can. I think I can just take a bolt and remove. I can just take that nut and remove the gear. No. It's not a gear. Not a gear, because it's not a gear. It's 2 balance shafts in there, and they have notches, and I think they ride off the crank. So I think that's it. I think I'm thinking about the oil pump or something. But the oil pump, I don't know. I'm doing too much thinking. Like, again, it's been so long since I rebuilt one of these, but the oil pump should be below the balance shaft. So I don't know. I'll figure out all that out when I get to it. I do have factory service information like I did when I rebuilt the last one. So all the torque specs, all the all the bit of information I need is going to be there. And again, this is going to be predicated. Well, if I put a used motor here, it's going to be solely predicated based off of the condition of this motor. Now, the bearings, my biggest concern is the balance shaft bearings and the balance shafts themselves, because if this motor ran low on oil, could be a problem with the balance shaft bearings, and there could be play in that. So I'll have to take those and I'll have to inspect the balance shaft and make sure those are fine and the bearings are not worn out. But I'm hoping that they're not, because that's at the base. They're not going through that much stress because they're rotating, just as the crank the crank journals on the block, being that they just ride, they're not going to be as taxed as the rods, because they're going through a rotating they're what's out of balance, if that makes sense. So they're having the downward pressure applied to them from the combustion. So, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna sit here and talk all day. I'll literally go on for about 30 minutes. All right, I got the exhaust down here. I just used a 14 millimeter to get the exhaust bolts from the downpipe and the exhaust hanger up here. That was a 12 millimeter, and disconnected the downstream O2 sensor. So took the 10 millimeter bolts out. I drained the oil, and the oil, no, I should move the camera too far. The oil was low, just naturally, you know, when customers, I'm gonna have to put like a, hold on. Just naturally when customers run the vehicle extremely low on oil, they'll add oil at the last minute. I don't know if you noticed, but that was the reason why the oil container was down there. There you go. I think I got all my bolts out. I got that one left. Just gonna I know I need a little more leverage. There we go. Man, I hate, it's not all the time where I gotta go through a motor and unlock it before I can pull it out. Normally, at least they'll be in the midst of going bad. Go on this other side here and see if I can pry out. Let me see if I can pull that. Let me see a little bit. I got the oil drained pretty well, so I should be okay. I don't think there's going to be any metal in here, because nothing's broken. It's making a nice pile in there. This car's been sitting. Oh, it looks real nice in there. So yeah, there's our oil pump here. Here's our balance shaft. And I just can't remember. This shouldn't be chain driven or anything. No, there's a chain down here for the oil pump only. So I can smell it. I'm gonna show you the oil pan later. There is some metal in here. Yeah, there's metal. Not a big deal, because that's going to be bearing material. I'm just hoping it's not from the balance shafts here, because if it is in the balance shaft bearings are bad, I'm going to just go ahead and throw another motor in there, because I'm not going to go through the extent of just getting another balance shaft, another engine. Even though it'll still be cheaper, I can just go to the junkyard, pull one out, be done with it. I'll take it in consideration, you know. Yeah, I can see the metal particulates in the oil pump there. All that's going to be replaced. Again, I'm just hoping we'll focus on that later. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I should be able to pull this out. Let me hit it with some brake cleaner. Alright, I guess the plan, it's look like I can take this balance shaft out and just take those bolts out here. And again, I mean, it's just been so long since I freaking rebuilt the motor. Take this, I got my pan here, my oil pan is collecting the oil. And I'm going to take the pickup out, and I should have enough room to drop the balance shaft. Just going to leave that in the oil pan there. Get those bolts back. Okay, so I think if the oil pump is picking the oil up and it's going to the bearings first, I think we might be okay. I mean, this sits right in the oil, so I'm pretty sure this should be well lubricated. Shouldn't have any problem with the balance shaft. So 12 millimeter, 12 point I'm using. Everything's going right in the oil pan here. This has seen better days. I think it's on its way out. This power torque impact gun. No, I'm not crazy, but we'll see. I know I'm usually wrong, but again, it's been so long. We'll find out in a little bit. I'm not worried about anything being out of position. Again, because one, this motor might be junk. Two, everything has like little dials, and so here we go. Look at the bearings. Look at the journals. We'll pull this to the side and come back to it later. Not worried about that. Alright. You see, there's the gear I was referring to on the crank that drives those balance shafts. The journals on the bearings look fine, so I think we're in the green here. Let me take a look at this one. This is questionable. This is questionable, but these are further from the oil pump, so but they still look good. The journals on the balance shaft don't look like they don't have any signs of wear on them. Now I can just get a bearing set for this also off Rock Auto for like $30-something. I think it was like 30 or 16, one of those, and it will be good to go. Let me take a look up in here. Now I can see cylinder 3. I'm looking at cylinder 3 here. Rod end cap. I do have to remove the lower half of the oil pan, the upper half, sorry, of the oil pan to also access those other 3. So yeah, this is going to have to come out. Not a big deal. If I recall properly, I just got to take some of the bolts off the timing cover, take the carrier carrier off of the CV axle, and take off the necessary bolts on around the bell housing, and I'll be able to pull down. Oh yeah, and the timing chain for the oil pump here. Now, like I said, I'm replacing all that, so I can. There's a bolt here. I can just simply break that loose on the side and take off the chain. So I don't think I got to go through as much work as I think I do. I think. Let me see. I see one. I can see one also up here. I wonder if that's the one that's locked up. I'm going to remove the oil pump, and I should be able to look like I'll be able to see one better. Let's do that. And that should be a 12 also. Use that same old 12 point. Whoops. Put that on there, you'll be alright. I removed the wrong one. Did I? Yeah, I did. Am I tripping? Yeah, that should be it right there. Alright. No, I didn't remove the wrong one. I thought I did. Let's see if I can get enough slack to take this chain off. Nope. Tensioner. Let me see if I can break that loose. Alright, I got a 14. I'm gonna try to break this loose. I don't know if it's reverse thread or not. I can't remember. I'm gonna go normal direction. I think it's reverse thread. Yeah, it is. No, is it? I think I'll just turn the wrong direction because I'm facing the opposite way. Either way, yeah, it's not reverse thread. That was my fault. I was giving out wrong information. I was just facing the opposite direction. Alright, we're going to take this gear off. I can find my pry bar. Alright, we should be able to drop the oil pump. Alright, so I see, what is this? I have access to one. One is locked up. That's the one that's seized. I can see it has a heated color. Oh, my brother. There's my number one. Right there, you can see the discoloration there. Where it has been exposed to a lot of heat. So I'm gonna try to remove one, free it up, and get it freed up to where I can extract the motor without having to disassemble this whole thing under here. All right, so far I got the compressor out. Those were about 12, I want to say, millimeter. And I got the alternator out. That was a 12 and a 14 also. I got the manifold off, 12 and a 14. You get that? You see the trend here. The bottom has there's 2 brackets holding the downpipe or the manifold onto the block to a lower support, and those are 14. So I got those loose. I had the toughest time. I don't know why. I can freaking pull the motor apart, but I had a hard time getting that freaking band off for the connector for the oxygen sensor. And now I'm gonna have to remove this bracket to get enough clearance to get off the manifold and pull this straight out. Alright, so I'm going to drain the coolant last. So this didn't take that long. I got electric impact, so this Toyota has plenty of room. Toyota's awesome. So let's see here. Now, being that I have all the front components moved, the drive shaft in the back is out. I didn't take the axle out. I just removed the carrier for the axle. Now I should be able. All I gotta do is remove those bolts on the engine block and the bell housing also inside. So you're not going to have any bolts on the outside here because they're on the inside, which is the cool thing. I shouldn't have to worry about a timing cover because I think everything starts right here at the block. So let's get to removing that. I'm going to have to take this out also, but this dipstick should come straight out. If I recall, I want to say this is a 12. Nope, it's a 10. Tell you, I'm just all wrong, man, with my numbers today. So that's loose. Pop that out so the dipstick's not going to be annoying. I'm going to put that right back in there. Like I said, I'm just going to get the engine freed up today, and I'll continue with pulling the block out tomorrow. I mean, otherwise, I don't. This engine isn't that difficult to remove. It's very basic. This is pretty easy. And again, this is what I do for a living. So, like I said, the drive shaft's loose. Now I'm going to work on getting these bolts down around here for the lower half of the block. These should be, I want to say, 12s. Pulling all this stuff down. I need to put this where I'm going to remember. I'm going to remove those all on the inside. They're pretty obvious. Shouldn't have any oil baths. Oh, you know what? I was wrong. That timing cover, some of those bolts are going to have to come off the timing cover. Totally my fault. Shit. God damn it. No big deal. It's going to have to come off anyway. So let's get what I can off. I'm not 100% with this, I tell you. Can't remember everything. Everything looks like it's pretty accessible. You'll know what goes where if it's outside or inside because the bolts will have. Some of them look like the bolts that goes inside the block. Damn it. It's a 14. These need to go in a special pile because those are engine bolts. Put those out. Alright. Need to put those in a special spot. I think I'll just probably leave them there. So those are out, those are out. I just need to remove the timing cover bolts and I should be able to drop the lower half here. Alright, here on the crank pulley, you have 4 bolts here that got to come out. So there's one, and then there's another one on the corner over there. Then there's another one here, and there's another one at the bottom. Now the problem is I got to take this mount out here just to be able to access that one bolt on the side, which is making this pretty difficult. No big deal, you know, it happens. So once I get the mount off, take off these what look like 14mm bolts for the mount bracket, and I'll be able to pull those 4 12mm bolts out, and I should be able to drop this bottom half. I'm hoping. I think, man, don't hold me on, but I think it has dials in there, so I don't know. I may have to take this whole timing cover off though. We're gonna figure it out though. Then I thought it was 3, but I got a jack under there with the block to jack up the engine, and I got it lowered now to be able to remove the crank pulley. I have it's not a 3-jaw puller, so I can't remember the technical name for this tool. I apologize about that. But it is a crank pulley removal tool. But what I'm gonna do, I have a 3/8 socket in there to absorb the force of leverage as I pull it off. And you know what? I didn't even need it. I swear I had to use this once before. You know what? It's fine. You know, hey, at least I got a tool, and you know it worked. So I didn't think I could just pull it off. I swear I had to use a tool to get it off. Either way, it's off now. I'm gonna finish removing that 12mm bolt here for the timing cover. So I got 4 bolts removed. Pulleys removed, mounts removed, and I should just be able to pry it down and completely remove the other portion here, assuming there's no dowel pins here. I'm hoping there isn't, but we're gonna find out shortly, aren't we? Another thing, I remember last time I rebuilt this motor, I had to put a new axle in it, but don't let the engine completely rest on that CV axle there. What I did was I let it rotate and it damaged the boot, so I had to put a new axle on it. Not a big deal. Cost like, I got it online too, so that axle wasn't that expensive. So that was years ago. All right, let's go back under and see if we can remove this bottom half and get the #1 piston freed up, or the #1 journal on the crank freed up. Let's see here. Alright. Probably might need to get another flathead. I'm just gonna look in there and see if I see a dial pin. Yeah, there is. So I'm gonna have to take the whole timing cover off. Damn it. Alright, it took me a while to get to this point. Right now, I got all the bolts. I know all of them are out now, because I knew some of the bolts retaining this other portion of the block here were tucked in some crevices. So you do have to remove the threaded end for the oil filter to get the bolt inside of there out, and then in the top crevice on the rear side of the block, you have to get another 12mm bolt that sits inside. And it's not a good idea, I understand, but I'm right here on the main cap bolt, and I'm just going to pry down and let some of that coolant drain out. So this is generic information also, because there's going to be a lot of little stuff I'm missing. Now, there was another bolt on the bell housing I forgot to get that was on the outside, on the starter side, but beneath the starter. So that's out. Everything's out now, so I should be able to comfortably remove this lower body. And I will say, up to this point, it took me about 2.5 2.5 hours. I want to say 2.5, 3 hours. And I want to say I've worked all through this. It was just I forgot some stuff that I needed to take off, and getting all my assortment of tools together to be able to take off what I need. But other than that, 2.5 hours, and I'm about to take the lower half of this pan out. So there's my coolant getting drained. Looks like blood. This is the trigger wheel here. This comes right off. This F stands for front. So if you ever have to put this motor together, be sure to make sure this F is facing out. You can see that right there. For the focus, I don't think it wants to. Okay, do what you want. So just make sure it has the F facing. Alright, I think we're good. I'm going to pry it out a little more, see what happens. I did have to take off the power steering pump. I think I'm missing some of that information. I think I need to go under and pry on the other side. Let's see how well this worked out. Oh gosh. Slow and steady, let that coolant drain, I tell you. Alright, get on the side there, boy. Alright, finally. Finally. I'm gonna let this drain a little bit, get my brake cleaner and clean a little bit up, and then we'll get a better look. If you're wondering where it was leaking from, there's the little port where all the coolant was coming from. Now we can see our rods. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1 is definitely heated. 2 looks like it's the worst. Now I'm gonna take a 12mm 12-point socket and get those rod end caps out and free the motor up, so I could get one of them. I can get it with the impact gun there. Coolant's still falling. I need to put something down here. Yeah, here are the bolts. I mean, they look pretty bad. Oh. Stuff something in there. All I was gonna do is saturate the towel and make it worse. If I can get it in here, let's forget it. So that's number 2. So I can get number 1. Yeah, everything is really accessible once you get the balance shaft, that housing off. Take a hammer. Let me see if I can tap it off. There's number 1. So I can do number. Now it's not at top dead center because this, that one right there was stuck. It's halfway through. So if it was top dead center, it'd be facing straight up. So that's one of our problem childs right there. So here's our number 2 journal. Again, I'm changing the crank. This is what we got. That's why I was locked up. It's number 2. The journal actually don't look that bad. It's just, but you know, I'm still changing, of course. So let's let's take a look at number 1. That coolant is just like annoying. Oh gosh. Yeah, that bearing right there spun too. If I can. There you go. It's part of it breaking. Hang on. I'm trying to hurt myself trying to get it out. Here's number 1. That's what we're dealing with. So, hey, the engine's free now, so I can spin it over, do what I need to do. Let's go to the top. Man, that's all I can say. So, after about 3 hours, I think about 3 hours. Let me see what time it is. 4:06. Yeah, 3 hours. I will say. I finally got the rod end caps loose. This is one of them, which, you know what I should have done, because I need to order some from the dealer. So luckily these got the same. Let me see here. They look like they got the same number, so I think we're fine. Either way, I can match them up. But I think they wanted a color. I think it was a color they wanted. I have to call the dealer back, because I know I ordered a rod the last time I did this motor. So unfortunately I have to order 2. And I'm going to check the other 2. I'm not going to order 4 if I don't need them. But obviously if the bearings are just bad or just scorned, I'm not going to worry, especially being that it didn't spin. So the bearing rotated inside of these 2. That's why it locked up. So you have like little locks here. See that? So it spins and it hits a point of disagreement, of major friction, and it locks up once the friction builds. So likely those 2 rods are going to be fine. I'll just change the bearings with the new crank and be okay. Replace those 2 rods. And even though I've got them mixed up, it's fine, because they have like little notches in here with numbers. So it'll complete a number once I get them back lined up. Like this one look like it's going to be a 0. This one look like it's going to be I don't know. So I don't know what this one looks like. What does this look like? It's not a 7. It doesn't look like a 2. Definitely not a 2. Unless it's an upside down 2, because these 2s are upside down. So I don't know. This look like a 0 or 8, and probably a 2 on this one. I doubt it. It ain't probably a 2. But either way, I digress. So I'm gonna get the motor out tomorrow, or either in the next 2 days, because I got like another Honda something I got to work on. And over the course of a few days, once I get the motor out, get it pulled down, inspect the bore, the head gasket, mating surface should be fine. Unfortunately, on these engines, you are not supposed to shave the head, because it could put a damper on the timing. So you're not supposed to shave them from what the machine shop preferred stated last time. So I'm not going to shave this one. I'm just going to take everything to the machine shop and let them clean it, check it, and probably replace if it need anything. And if I highly doubt they're going to mill it, but I'll leave it up to them. But everything's going to the machine shop to get clean and checked. But I will be doing the rebuild for the internals, putting the head gasket and everything in there. I'm going to have a lot of miscellaneous bolts laying around. I can't begin to tell you. But this car is definitely getting a new water pump, timing components, crank, rods, pistons, set, everything. So it's going to be even the BBT gear. Let me show you that. It is on the intake side. I didn't take the valve cover off, but yeah, you can see that. I'm still going to change that anyway. Our timing chain does look scorned on some of the links there. Damn thing, I don't want to focus really. But you know, as far as the oil, I mean, it looked like it's been kept up really good, and it has 200,000 miles on it. It's just unfortunately consume the oil. So, but once I get it torn down, from what I'm seeing right now, it looks like I can rebuild it. But like I said, the bore shouldn't be bad. I haven't seen a bad bore from locked up motor, but I've seen a bad bore because of overheating. Everything gets so hot and expands so much that the skirt of the piston starts rubbing up against the cylinder walls, and you get those you get some issues. And I mean, it can happen. The bore can be damaged because of inadequate oil, but I'm pretty sure after a while of running, you'll probably see signs of that. But I highly doubt it with the Toyotas. I don't know, anything's possible. I haven't torn into it yet. Here's the valves here. We got white soot there. And that is take a better look in there. I'm just trying to look through the camera. Look in there. I mean, you can see some little you can see accumulation of oil there. Like, if you look on that one looks pretty bad out of all the other ones, but you can see on the valve there, like how spark plugs look if there was oil atomization mix, or like in the combustion chamber, you'll see that type of white soot on the pistons. From what I understand, the oil will look different when it's going into the intake and being atomized, mixing with the fuel, versus being versus leaking in the combustion chamber and being burnt off. And if I recall properly, the combustion, if it's leaking by the rings, that will cause the white soot versus the black foul look that you would get if it was coming through the intake and being atomized with the fuel, if I recall properly. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap everything up. I've taxed myself today trying to get that motor unlocked, which it is, and we'll definitely find out later once I get this motor disassembled. We'll do kind of like a semi-autopsy video, but I guess preparing for surgery. So I guess probably would be the name of it. We'll find out later how the block look on the inside. Oh yeah, and I'm getting head bolts too. I'm getting all that new stuff. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can get that done over the weekend. And I do have to get things ordered, but I definitely need to know what state the block is in before I can get all my parts ordered to get this rebuilt. I mean, I'm not going to make this seem like it's a freaking race engine, but, you know, I am curious to see what it looks like on the inside. So, we'll see what happens. But, hey, if you're not subscribed, hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, have reassurance in my work, and stay tuned for the autopsy, because I'm, like, really curious, man. I really want to see what's up inside of here. We're going to go through it. We're going to see if it needs a used motor, if I can rebuild this or not. We're gonna check all that stuff out. I'm not gonna go really in depth because this motor's not that serious. Like I said, the balance shaft was fine. I'll probably just get some new bearings for it, call it a day. I'm not gonna put the plastic gauge to it. I'm gonna have to trust the manufacturer with the crank. We'll get to all that when I get inside of the motor. But hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, have a reassurance on my work. See you on the next one.